Hey, good morning. If you're waking up to me, it will be. Okay, this next topic I felt like I had to throw in, but I debated. It's never been that big a thing in my life, but we're going to talk about cars! I like cars. Nearly as much as I like residences and women. They all last about the same amount of time for me. My first car was a 1963 Plymouth Fury. It had a 6-way electric bench seat. Pretty cool back in those days. And in fact, that was the last car I had with a bench seat. When's the last time you saw one of those? It had the gear shift instead of down below you off to the right. It was up on the dashboard. There was this little lever about yay long, and it had the park reverse neutral drive on it. And you would pull that thing up and down to shift into the different gears. Totally cool. I bought that baby for $325 when I was 16. Hold on, let me do the math. I could buy about 185 of those with what I spent on my Mustang. Times have changed. In addition to the 3.25, it cost me $50 a month for carburetor repairs. The thing was so gummed up with crud that all the hoses were just blowing crapo through the engine and clogging the carburetor. In no particular order then, after the first, I bought an all-white Buick Riviera with what they called a Landau roof, a padded leather roof. It had a 6-inch square touchscreen, one of the first. Again, totally freaking cool. The way I got it, and I've never been impulsive. I drove by the dealership which had it while I was totally hammered, which was a recurring theme for a 3-year period of my life. Drive by it, I whip a U-turn and owned it within the hour. But the way I bought it, I was so drunk, I insisted I would pay sticker price. They literally begged me to let them give me the usual discount. I got all offended. They didn't think I could afford to pay sticker. Wow. I finally paid list and left. I hadn't really noticed as I walked through the whole sales force as I left. I was the last customer, and they were hanging out having major yucks. That car, I'm told, went 118 miles per hour on the way to our cabin out in Decatur. And it was beautiful. Pricey, but beautiful. Campers. Sherry and I started out tent camping, which could be miserable if it was hot or raining or both. We then went to a pop-up camper, it would pull out, so you had two sides hanging off the end. And boy, it was a fancy thing. It even had a leather top, which I assume they bought at Walmart. We went from, tent, pop-up, turtle top VW camper van. Turtle top meaning there was about an extra foot in this bubble above the van. I could almost stand up in that baby. And then we had 3 different Class C RVs where you sleep above the driver's area. Sherry and I both liked a long drive and seeing new places. You 3 were the earliest to near 50 states as anyone in your classrooms, maybe anyone in history. I bought a maroon Chevy Suburban for Sherry. We had a deal. If she did something for me, which Ryan and Eric, I think you know what that was, she got a Chevy Suburban, brand new Chevy Suburban. That sucker they didn't give away. Additional gifts for Sherry included her lime green Super Beetle and a light blue Ford Taurus station wagon, both of which she, the station wagon she requested, the Super Beetle, was a surprise gift. Spoiled? Sherry? Yeah. At another point in time on 159th, we had 2 Super Beetles and a pickup. Unusual garage. The right-hand side was dug out, 4 to 6 feet deeper than the left-hand side. We would pull in the pickup, get it right up against the wall, and then I would back in the 2 VWs. So, wait a minute, I'm saying that wrong. I'd pull one of the VWs in on the left-hand side and back the other one in, so it was like perpendicular to the 2 cars facing this way. I'm telling you what, that was a genius move. I don't remember which one of us came up with it, but a genius move. 3 cars in a 2-car garage. My Dodge Viper on the infamous toothbrush trip to Vegas. Parker turned 21, and I decided that he and Bob and I should go to Vegas to celebrate. So we did that. I packed, quote, nothing but a toothbrush. So I had the same clothes on in every picture for the 3 days. When we went back for Brock's 21st, I didn't even bring a toothbrush. I told him, it occurred to me I had way overpacked. You can buy them at Walgreens. So, Dodge Viper red. When I rented it, the guy behind the desk said, okay, I'm gonna go out here and over here, and then take this highway. It's like 5 miles of newly laid asphalt. smooth as a baby's behind. I thought that was weird, but then I thought about it. If I was renting out Vipers, I'd want people to know where to take it so they aren't taking it somewhere stupid and screwing it up. So I got the baby up to about 140, was coming up on a curve, didn't know whether I would understeer or oversteer, so I slowed down. My other 140 mile per hour trip was at the Kansas City Speedway's Richard Petty driving school that I did with Foxy Roxy. 140 on one of those super speedways feels like 40. They had a blocker car in front of you, so you couldn't go any faster. When things were especially good at CFO Services, I bought a Dodge Stealth sports car, not for me. I think I drove this thing 5 miles total. It was for my coworkers to have on the weekends, purely to screw around with. So that they had a rotation. It's Dave's weekend, then Chad's, then Marcia's, etc. Pretty dandy perk if you were working with me. During those CFO Services days, we drove 6 to 8 Ford Explorers at a time. They were all forest green, like our letterhead, the color of money, cream background, certain flavor of green ink. 6 to 8, how the heck do you do that? They were all company cars for employees who were driving hither and yon. All the license plates had some version of CFO Services on it. Mine was CFO space SVCS. I liked those Ford SUVs enough. I drove Ford Escapes for 10 plus years after leaving CFO. A sad story, and one for the ages. I ordered a black on black 50th anniversary Mustang GT through Sap Ford. Eventually, I canceled the order because Cindy had sucked the life out of it. We had separate money, and yet she griped at me incessantly that this thing was far too expensive. You're out of your mind. You're gonna regret this. I'll never ride in it. Oh my God. So I still think about buying one used on the web. There will be dozens of them out there, different mileages, different prices, but the same basic package. Stay tuned. I owned 2 Ford Pintos, shitty hatchbacks that occasionally burst into flames, generating a recall. You don't believe they burst into flames? 60 Minutes did a 20-minute segment on that topic. They were infamous. The first one I bought with a student loan, really funding my education, of $2,500. And that's the only student loan I had because I worked my fanny off to go to college. Only one downer to that first one. It had no air conditioning. Now, I'm working for the IRS right out of school, and I'm wearing suits every day. And I always wore an undershirt under my suit to protect the armpits of my relatively expensive dress shirt. So I would drive out there among them, and in the summer, I would have the front windows down to try to generate some 100 freaking degree airflow. And by the time I got to the appointment, invariably I was dripping sweat. I mean, hair is matted, worse than this. Shirt is, I mean, it had water glistening off it. So I traded in that Pinto and got a newer Pinto with air conditioning, and all was well with the world. When I became a CPA, I figured I should get a somewhat more real car than the Pinto, the green Pinto. I was expected to take clients to lunch, to bars, yada yada. So we got a new car, brand new. It was a tan Buick Regal. It had hubcaps that were so cheap. I swear, if I needed to have one replaced, they would just put a pizza pan over it. Brand new, but stripped. Yes, it had air. What it didn't have was power doors, power locks, windows, nothing. I mean, you were literally cranking windows. But it beat the heck out of a very used Ford Pinto, air conditioned or not. For a while, I drove a Jeep Grand Cherokee, beautiful vehicle. That was to keep up with my Grand Island partners, who were all driving that vehicle. I had 2 Dodge Ram pickups. The first one was like within the first 3 delivered in Omaha. I ordered it so far in advance. And, excuse me, the first one was a standard pickup, 1 or 2 door. Second one was a 4-door. Green, like the CFO services stuff. I would travel the western part of the state in that thing. And in the morning when I went to a cafe, which, as you can see, I always did, I would park that dude right in front of the cafe, leave it unlocked, and pop the hood. And I'd sit there while I'm eating, getting a big kick out of the fact that typically there were 4, 6, 8 local dudes looking over that engine and talking. So I would come out of the cafe and they'd ask me some question. How many foot-pounds of torque does this thing have anyway? And I would always say, well, it takes unleaded gas. kill myself. Fifi and I bought 2 bugs, one black, one silver, both turbos, both a riot to drive. We go to the VW dealership together, and I had my eye on a black one. No plans for her to get one. She saw that black one and whined her way into the silver one. Another one of my spoiled females. That's okay though, it was Fifi. I must have a VW bug addiction. Lori and I became an item in June of 2016. That story led me to buy and wrap a brand new Beetle in February of 2017. She told me a story about her ex, who apparently was somewhat of an asshole, as many of us are said to be. Her dream car was a burnt orange convertible 1960s VW Bug. Somewhere in their blissful married years together, she ended up with one. Right before they split, she came home one day and it was gone. He just sold it to be a dick. Crestfallen she was. I did what most guys would do in that circumstance. I bought her a brand new Beetle to replace the one that her honey sold. But that wasn't good enough. Of course it had to be a convertible. And of course it had to be wrapped with an orange background full of the things that defined her and us. Hearts, peace signs, a flying squirrel. You had to be there. And that's just one story about why we're together and more deeply in love than ever today. In closing about cars, I have thoughts about the cars I bought for Sherry. Those cars, of course, paid for after alimony and after my child support and after covering all the Boy Scouts expenses with my CFO services job. Me? Bitter? Nah. All but hers. Totally worth it.